All right. If you can both introduce yourselves.
I'm Corrina Cohen. I work for NBCUniversal. I focus mainly on sports and Olympics and all of our smaller B2B, B2C experiences, basically anything D2C that's not linear television or Peacock. And yeah, other than that, I make sure that all of our operations take place so that way you all can enjoy customer experiences and go sports.
And I am Jessica Robinson. I am with World Travel Holdings, or Cruises.com, cheap cruises, cruises only. I have been, excuse me, with them for a year. I have 22 years in email marketing experience. 21 of those were in financial services. At World Travel, I am responsible for ensuring that our emails make it to the inbox with the help of Inbox Monster. We do a lot of testing, so analyzing that data and figuring out what our customers are looking for and what's going to improve our program.
Awesome. All right, so let's start by giving some context to the type of work that you both are doing. Can you give some texture to the type of campaigns, the triggers, the journeys that you're deploying and working against day in, day out? Corrina, if you could start.
Okay. So a lot of what I do is help with making digital experiences happen. So I sit in a lot of the marketing strategy meetings, and the C-suite and the VPs and whatnot are like, I would like to do this really cool sports experience thing, or Fandango needs to partner with NBC Theaters for a little thing called Wicked, stuff like that. So my team also helped with the first time that NBC had QR codes on TV for a sweepstakes giveaway to do an acquisition, and ended up having more acquisitions that day than we had in all of the year and a half before I joined. And then we also do things like identifying data points across the company that we can leverage for any type of personalization. We also help come up with strategies for things like inferences, and then injecting those in to our existing campaigns to test and see how well they do, and then report back on them. So we do everything but send, basically.
Yeah. And then Jessica, you?
So we are sending emails based on customer triggers, based on folks coming to us looking at different itineraries, sending emails to our past cruisers, encouraging them to come back and see what we have to offer for rates and rooms, and taking that data and trying to figure out how to attribute a booking to an email when we have so many other forms of advertisement going on. Yesterday's conversation about last click attribution was something that I was really interested in. And so trying to figure out exactly how to tie a booking to an email, and then how do we improve it? What do we do next are kind of the things that we're working through.
So now I'm curious, you're looking at all this data, you're identifying data to go after. How do you differentiate between data that is nice to know versus something that you need to act on or would be incredibly valuable to act on? What's the lens that you apply? Jessica, you want to start? Yeah.
I'd say we actually have 3 tiers of data when people are requesting since I came in. We used to just have, where marketing was like, we want all the data. Anything you put in there, just throw it in there, it's fine. So now we have business critical data, we have business value data, and then we have our nice to haves. The nice to haves come in last, because obviously we either need business critical because otherwise we're stopping business, and then business value because we need to make money. And then, the nice to haves are the additional sprinkles on top of your little sundae there of a digital experience.
So obviously we're looking at booking data, but we're also looking at where the customer's gone, what they've looked at. One of the things we're working towards is looking at the types of cruises they are looking at, whether they're looking at cruises for their family or just for 2, for husband and wife, or they're looking for a celebration type thing. So we're trying to tie all of that back in.
Got it. Okay. Now, you can have the best tech stack in the world, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't mean anything if your data is kind of cruddy. So let's talk about how you maintain quality, data hygiene, the practices that you do. What are you doing to measure and assess the health of your data and then to maintain it over time? Jessica, you want to take that?
Sure. So I think that data is something that companies always work at. There's so much data out there. Trying to figure out what's what is super important. With only being at World Travel for about a year, I'm still learning every day, trying to figure out where to go for what. One of the things that we are working towards now is tying it all back in and figuring out where we have crossover and where we're advertising multiple brands to one customer. And so trying to work that in with our tech stack has been a bit of a challenge, but that's probably more on me because I don't know. I'm still new and still trying to learn. So I'm really interested in how Corrina is working through. I've learned so much from Corrina this week, so.
So I have the sneaky advantage of before I was in marketing, I actually was a DBA in AS400 and JD Edwards, which means that I was doing data cleanup in DOS. Yeah, I'm old. I've been doing this a long time. But yeah, so I have, for a very long time, that was my very first job, was a temp job, going in and actually like querying for data, finding anomalies, cleaning them up. And so I've brought that with me in pretty much all of the jobs I've done. I always put into place any type of automation. If I can't do it in my ESP, I'm working with my data team to make sure that there's data governance before it comes into my system, because it's, I mean, same as what you learn in school, garbage in, garbage out. Like, it's still that simple. A lot of times, and I was saying this yesterday at my roundtable, is you're going to get pushback from like your data team because they don't have time, they're so busy, everyone wants my time, everything wants everything now. So what I do is I find ways to bring the business value back, and I let them know how they're helping with the company. So it was a lot easier when I was in retail. So I used to work for Famous Footwear, which was owned by Caleres, and I love shoes, so I'm really good at selling shoes. But I could also go back and be like, hey, remember when you helped me implement predictive intelligence on the website? Like, we've helped boost sales by 30% in this last quarter. And they'd be like, wait, that was me? I was like, yeah, it was you. I didn't do it. So when you can bring back the business value to people that aren't told how they're bringing value to the business, they're going to start putting you at the top of their list because they want to hear what they're doing, and they want to be a cool kid too. Because I also tell them, like, make sure you're writing this down for your boss in your end-of-year review, because if you are struggling with stuff to come up with, like, I'm giving you talking points for a raise right now.
That is one thing that's been difficult for me at World Travel, is very much like Corrina in my previous space, I was able to get whatever data I wanted. I could query whatever data I needed, I could pull it in, I could verify it, and I could act on that data. So we're getting there, but it's one of those things where when your data is all over the place and you're working with different partners and trying to get partner data in, it's a struggle. So, but being able to get to the data is key.
I love it because when we talk about data governance, it sounds like legislation, and it's very punitive if you are to break it, but you use a very carrot approach, not the stick, and I think that's incredible. I'm curious now, as we talk about campaign performance and what you're looking for, what you're assessing, what are those KPIs, those metrics that you evaluate beyond just an open and a click? Jessica, you want to start?
Sure. We're looking at engagement. We're looking at actions taken on the website. We're looking at if they come back, and if they're coming back within 24, 48 hours. The next email we send, are they clicking on the same type of cruise? Are they clicking on the same type of itinerary? Are they looking at the same cruise line? So we're taking all of that data and trying to build a profile for the customer to know how to better communicate with them in the future.
We do a lot of those same pieces, but we have the added challenge that instead of having the normal like KPIs and ROI and stuff that you would for retail, we are taking those packages of our customer information and we're using that as value propositions to renew our sports leagues. So when you saw that NBC got the Olympics for another, oh, I forgot how many years, a lot of years, but not as good as the guy that originally got NBC the contract, because he got us a 100-year contract back in the 1900s. Like, that man was a genius. But yeah, so we did that by taking all of our Olympics data that we have on people, taking all of our engagement, showing how people were engaging not only with our online experiences, but we also had some on-site installments around the country. And so we take all of that and we're like, here's the experiences and here's the overall view of all of our Olympic subscribers, and we can continue to share this with you. And they were like, well, yeah, we want that data still. And so we were able to keep that contract. Same with the Premier League. That was one of the very first ones I had to do when I came in. They were like, Corrina, we need you to pull all the data that you have on the Premier League and give us a customer study on what the value is and what we can provide to the Premier League. And mind you, I had actually started at NBC the same day that the Tokyo Olympics started, which was also one of my jobs. But yeah, that's, and so a lot of what we're looking for is the engagement, but we don't take it and use it to report back again on sales. We make a lot of inferences, like I was saying, and we use it for testing to inject in different content and try different areas, especially because sports are cyclical. So while we might have a ton of information on NFL and tons of articles most of the year, there's still a couple of years where those guys, or months where those guys like to take a little vacation and see their families. Or yeah, like our Denver basketball MVP who likes to go back over to, I think it's the Ukraine, I can't remember. But yeah, like athletes like to take breaks, so we have to be able to supplement with other sports. And people don't always tell us those sports that they kind of like. So instead, we just pay attention to the engagement and take action off of that.
I love that. I want to keep building on that, on this kind of idea of how you move that data forward into an action. I think it's very easy to have analysis paralysis around. There's so much to look at, and when you pull the full file of the data. Can you talk a little bit, Corrina, about like your mindset and the strategy at which you tackle that data to then turn it into creative changes, frequency changes, whatever it may be?
I mean, I always start by asking my marketing leadership what it is that they envision for their program. Like, what is it that you want to know about your customer? What do you want them to experience off of the data? And then from there, I will go and find it, and I will make it happen. And if we don't have it, I'll go and collect it for you somehow. And so that's why we do sweepstakes, and we do quizzes. All those fun engagement things that you see on NBC, those are ways for data points that people wish that they had, but they don't. And we get you to put them in. We've also A/B tested with like the amount of data people are willing to give, which was a lot of fun. I know we've talked a lot about A/B testing with an email, but you can also A/B test like your acquisition and see how much data, when is too many fields asking questions, when's not enough that you don't get a decent profile and have to keep sending emails. It's also been able to help us with re-engagement campaigns because we can take some of that same data and be like, oh, they're a NASCAR fan only and they've lapsed and haven't engaged in the last 6 months. Let's send them an interactive quiz to ask them who their favorite NASCAR drivers are. There's too many sports. And then if they engage with that email, then they are considered active again, and then we inject them back into our regular campaigns. If not, we give a couple more tries with a couple other things like a Peacock offer, and then we let them go away because we're hoping they'll come back on their own since, yay, sports.
And Jessica, what about you? What is your approach to taking your data and turning it into action?
So I'm going to go back to financial services, to one of the tests that we did there and the way that we use the data. So cancellation of an insurance policy is a big deal, and trying to figure out how to keep a policy from canceling when we don't make outbound calls at all. So trying to figure out the cadence in which to send a cancellation email and to be the most effective. And so whether you send it 3 days, 5 days, and 10 days out, or you start at 15 days, we found that a 3 email cadence usually worked best for folks who had a tendency to lapse. For folks who had never lapsed, that first email, 7 days out, was the key. So looking at the data to figure out what's happened in the past and what do we need to do to keep this from happening in the future for this specific customer is an example of how we've used what we've seen the customer do based on the data and how to communicate with them in moving forward.
Can I have one more thing? Sorry.
Absolutely.
So another piece is once you get all this done, and if your marketing team is still not happy, that's where you go and you say, okay, what is the next best action you want them to take? So they need to be, so yeah, if they're not happy with what's going on, make sure you're like, okay, what do you want to have happen? Because if that's not in there, we're not going to get you the metrics you want. Because that happens a lot where people are like, just send this email and do blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, but what are we trying to accomplish? And they're like, oh, knowledge? I'm like, no.
Yeah, Joyce, it all keeps coming back to problem definition.
Yep.
I'm noticing a consistent theme here. And speaking of themes, we're going to go full circle on, I opened by making a quick crack about the iOS 18 updates, but I am curious how it is impacting your business today, your programs, and how you're adjusting for it. What are the changes that you're employing? Jessica, do you want to start? I know you've got some big thoughts on this.
I have spent a lot of time looking at lots of blogs, lots of information, and trying to come up with a plan to have as little impact as possible to our program. It's not quite worked out that way, but I've tried. Trying to put together a list of things for our designers. This is what we're seeing, this is what others are seeing, this is what we need to try, and this is what we need to steer against. Our emails tend to be very image heavy. We want to show the perfect vacation picture, the perfect vacation cruise, the perfect balcony, the perfect sunset. But we need words now, because when AI summarizes all of those messages together, we need it to have something to use to make our message stand out. So trying to shift from very image heavy, very itinerary heavy to more words that are descriptive of a cruise that are going to be appealing to the user when it's all combined is something that we're working on right now. And it's still a challenge, but we'll get there.
Corrina, anything to add there?
So we've done a lot of that where we've already taken and gotten rid of a lot of the images and things. Now we're getting burned by our alias tracking. So we try and do a lot of really robust mapping on the back end to be able to tell what article people are engaging with, because I have highly dynamic emails based off of your engagement and your preferences to make sure that if you like golf, you're going to get golf first. If you like NFL, you're going to get NFL first. So now our AI summary is like NFL hero title 1, NFL hero title or hero body 2, and stuff like that that we have in the background, and it's not supposed to show up, but it somehow is, even though we have live text all over the email. That's the summary it chose to do. So we're still trying to work around that because they also don't want to get rid of any of the mapping because it is key to our analytics. So yeah, I will get back to you when I figure out how to get the basic accessibility and like requirements of HTML for an email to stop showing up as my summary.
All right, everyone, you have until December for our Deer Valley Summit to come up with the solution to that problem, and we'll get back on stage. All right, now where I want to start closing out on, are there common data pitfalls that you're seeing marketers fall into when they're trying to analyze their email performance?
So I'll start. So click rates seem to be the only thing that a lot of people are interested in still. People who are not necessarily in the email space every day, but are making decisions above. And trying to explain all of the reasons, well, click rates can still be reviewed. That's not the holy grail anymore. We have to look further into the email. We have to look at click rates. We have to look at engagement. We have to look at what the customer's doing 5, 7, 10 days after the click to see if those things are being effective. So for me, it's been very difficult to get folks away from open rates. I think I said that wrong initially. It's trying to get people away from open rates and looking more at click rates and engagement rates. Sorry about that.
I mean, for us, a lot of it is actually our sales emails. So we only send newsletters like 3 days a week, but then our ad sales people are selling so many emails. And so there's that balance where like, I know that you guys aren't signing up for email to get a bunch of ads from NBC. I know you're trying to have sports and information on your favorite TV shows and those kind of things. So finding that balance has really been the hardest part, because we're not going to keep people if we're abusing you.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for your insight into everything around email data and performance. We're going to turn it over to questions from the crowd, but John, guy in the back, really passionate about data. I told you, you've had 20, 25 minutes to prepare. We're starting with you on questions.
Oh, man. Okay. I know this guy. You're all about data. Let's go. Let us know who you are.
Dan Babb from Data Axle.
It's in the name, data.
So Jessica, you talked about having a lot of brands that you support. I remember looking at the website. How are you managing that oversaturation of marketing to individuals? You know, how do you keep track of, you've got somebody on cruises.com is getting an email on the same day, 3 other brands are also emailing that person?
We're working through it. So we're trying to analyze who gets what, and who gets what based on what we send for partners. And once we get there, I'm not sure how we're going to figure out what, or who's going to make the decision of who should get what. That's not something that'll be my responsibility. But I will be able to provide them with the data based on what I know, and then support whatever decision's made. But we do know that we are sending emails, multiple emails to folks every day because they've signed up for different brands.
Back here?
Hey, Jessica, Christina with Acoustic. If you had, since you're still getting acquainted and learning what you don't know, what would you say is like your biggest gap of visibility right now that like you feel like you really, really need?
So there's a lot to cruising. There's a lot to, and I'm an avid cruiser, and I thought I had a good grasp on it, and nowhere near. So trying to learn the business itself and how being an online travel agency works when you're supporting all of the different cruise lines, because everyone works differently. So trying to learn the business as well as trying to shift from marketing insurance, which isn't fun, to marketing a product that can be fun, but there's also rules. So I think that I just need more time, but I'm getting there.
Oh, yes. I should have stood right by you because I knew it was coming. Thank God you couldn't find your guns this morning. Oh, no. Oh, what happened to them? Say hello to my friend.
Yeah. So you guys have a vast amount of data, click data, all kinds of preference data. Do you guys use external third-party data to enrich that, to get more information about the consumer outside of your ecosystem?
We used to, but we are not allowed to anymore. NBC even has decided that we can't even collect the IP address of you anymore when we do tracking and stuff. So we have very, very robust tracking and UTMs and alias mapping instead, because a lot of those pieces that were the easy wins, they were like, nah, you can't do that anymore. That's invasive. So.
One more back here.
One more, that's it? Oh, nice. No questions, but Dana, revenue is the only metric. Doug, where do I see your stand-up routine? Because you're awesome. And Corrina and Jessica, seriously, data, without it, we're all doomed. So this was a great last day. And my last question is to you, John. We need a third one. And I'd like it to take place in September. Can we do that in New York City?
Well, the pressure is on. All right. We'll put that. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, events in New York are very expensive. Just like it's all about the data, it's actually all about the money. So show me the money, Randy, and then you got something.
I did
We'll
have
talk.
one more comment real quick for your question, because I have a cautionary tale for you from Amazon that I learned many years ago from when I met their marketing team. So Amazon Prime, they have a hierarchy system, and Amazon Prime messaging is first. And if there's an Amazon Prime message going out, everyone else basically has a suppression list that if Amazon's going out, you don't get to send your message. So I met the team from Amazon Music, and they send the same list every day for 6 days straight and maybe hit 10% of their list because they are at the bottom of the hierarchy. So that can also happen if you get too aggressive with your sending frequency throttling, as some of your businesses will never get to message because they're not as important. And I just looked at the Amazon Music team and I was like, that is a nightmare. And they were like, yeah, it kind of makes our job suck. They're like, we literally send the same email for 5 days and get no return. So, because Amazon Prime. So instead they get more, instead they get more off of the banners in the Prime emails.
All right. Well, thank you both so much for your insight and your time. And John, are you closing us out?